2010s were anything but average. The world pretty much turned upside down by the end of it. But now that all of that is over, it's time to take a look at some of the moments in sports that had everyone around the world gasping in unison. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at some of the biggest sports chokes of the 2010s. Starting off with number 8, the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2010. In 2010, the Cleveland Cavaliers lost in the conference finals despite winning 66 games the year before. It was devastating for the team, but even then, they were hopeful that they could turn it around. They tried to keep the numbers as high as possible. While that might seem like an impossible feat, it wasn't. They actually ended up winning 61 games throughout 2010 too. This marked the first time in franchise history that the team would win 60 games for 2 consecutive seasons. With that alone, they won most people's hearts. But the real kicker is the final game. Everyone was ecstatic, seeing the team climb to the top again. But would they bring home the title? That was the question, and man, did things go wrong. LeBron James' contract was just about to end, so this one really mattered. The best thing is that the Cleveland Cavaliers only needed 5 games to win, but the Boston Celtics swooped in right at the semifinals and left the Cleveland Cavaliers in the dust. This loss wasn't just one for the decade, and it was the worst home playoff loss in the franchise's history. Let's just say this one is literally for the books. At number 7, the 2011 NBA Finals. The 2011 NBA Finals was a game that really showed how one wrong decision could take your entire team down with it in seconds. 2011 was supposed to be the year LeBron finally came in and led the Miami Heat to a ring. That's what all the hype was about, no? Well, the entire team was coming together to really make it happen. Miami Heat was basically in full control of the game. Dwayne Wade had made basket after basket in a way that he had never done before and got the team to a comfortable 88-73 lead. There were 8 minutes still on the clock, so at that point, people had accepted that Heat would be the one to bring it home. All they had to do was keep up with the way they were playing this entire time. But then, they made one wrong decision. LeBron James was called in to take over on the offensive end. And let's just say things went downhill very quickly from that point on. He wasn't able to keep up with the heat Wade had been bringing. On the other hand, Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Terry made an insane comeback and got Dallas a score of 95-93 in Game 2. It took them just 8 minutes to demolish the team that had been keeping them down for 5 years straight. For Dallas fans, this one was probably the most satisfying game of the decade. At number 6, Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers shocker. Normally, playoffs are a nail-biting night for everyone, but sometimes which team is going to win is clear as day. The Boston Bruins were coming in with a bit of a reputation of being absolute savages in the game. Bruins were up 3 games to none, and for most people, it was just a formality match. Nothing major was supposed to change here. Everyone thought that the Bruins would be the ones to take the trophy home, without a doubt. But Philadelphia Flyers proved their name wasn't just a name and flew in to change everything. They scored enough points to make up for the deficit, and the teams went all the way to Game 7. There was a too many men penalty and a swift power play goal by the Flyers, which resulted in the Flyers being the ones to make it to the finals, leaving the Bruins gobsmacked, asking themselves how they could choke up this bad to just hand the losing team the win. It's a question they're still asking today. Next up, at number 5, J.R. Hildebrand. Whenever you hear about the biggest sports chokes, a lot of the time the phrase is thrown around a little freely. Some people are said to have choked when they simply lost a hard match, but this is not one of those times. At the 2011 Indianapolis 500, 23-year-old rookie J.R. Hildebrand had made his debut, so the world didn't even expect him to make it past the first 5 laps, let alone get anywhere near the finish line. All he had to do was to give the race his all anyway and make a good impression out there. But he decided that wasn't enough, and he pushed so hard that he landed in the leading spot. There was considerable space between him and the person in second place, but then the worst thing happened. There were just 2 turns left before the finish line, and right out of turn 4, Hildebrand crashed his Dallara right into an outside wall. The collision gave Dan Weldon enough time to zoom past him, and he ended up winning instead. At number 4, Liverpool, Premier League 2013-14. There was a time when Liverpool was one of the most dominant teams in England. They had proved time and time again that they weren't a team anyone should be messing with them at all. But Liverpool kind of fell off the wagon in the early 90s. They hadn't even come close to winning anything major for over 2 decades. And then the 2013-14 Premier League rolled around. Luis Suarez and Daniel Sturridge showed great partnership, and with it, raised the hopes of Liverpool fans everywhere. It only took the team 3 games to make everyone believe that there may be hope for a massive massive comeback after all, but sadly, it just wasn't meant to be. In the final game against Newcastle in Manchester, Steven Gerrard slipped when Demba Ba was trying to make it through on goal, leaving the area open for an easy hit. It was one wrong step and ended up shattering dreams that were in the making for 2 decades. This choke is one that hits you right in the heart. Can't forget Adam Scott, 2012 British Open at number 3. Adam Scott has always been one of those players that just knows what he's doing. His swings are always consistent, and his skills always put him above the rest. So when the 2012 British Open rolled around, he was one of the top contenders even before the tournament began. The man knows how to make a strong impression too. He opened by shooting 64 within the first round, and everyone had their eyes set on him throughout the entire tournament, thinking that he'd be the star throughout. But what goes up must come down. Scott still had a 4-stroke lead in the final round, and he seemed like he pretty much had it in the bag. On the 15th tee, Scott stood with his lead and scored a perfect dive, but then luck decided to switch clubs. Ernie Els, who was second up until that point, birdied on the 16th and made up for the 4-point lead, landing him right next to Scott. In the last 4 holes that followed, Scott just made one tiny error after another, maybe because he was flustered by suddenly not being in control of the whole game, and the mistakes added up. Els, on the other hand, persevered. He made major moves, including another birdie right at the end. He ended up beating Scott by 1, and it cost him the title that year. At number 2, Kate Campbell, Rio Olympics, 2016. Most of the time when athletes choke, they try to play it off as if they did, but Kate Campbell isn't one of them. While participating in the Rio Olympics in 2016, Kate easily made it to the final. It was like she was part of the water. Then suddenly, everything changed. Even though she had been doing great and had the potential of winning gold, something just went wrong and she lagged behind so much that she made it in at 6th place. When addressing the choke, she said, "I nearly needed someone to come and give me the Heimlich maneuver to help me out there," admitting that the whole ordeal was no less than one of the biggest chokes in history. However, she didn't let that take her down and is still competing this way. And finally, at number 1, Serena Williams versus Karolina Pliskova. Serena Williams is one of the biggest names in tennis. She's been a part of the sport for almost 3 decades, and in that, she's had her ups and downs. But no downs were even close to the one in 2019 against Karolina Pliskova. During the Australian Open quarterfinal, while Serena made the first set 6-4, but in the second set, Pliskova made 6-4 of her own. And well, with the score evened out, Serena just couldn't get it back up. The 23-year-old unleashed everything she had in her, and with it, demolished Williams in the court. Pliskova finished off with 5-1 lead in the third, and Serena couldn't score to save her life. Serena claimed it wasn't a choke. Pliskova was just too good. But the world has never seen the superstar lose the way she did in this crazy match. And on that note, we'll wrap up today's video. What did you think about these insane chokes? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one.